the TNG cast, or better known as the gang who can't shoot straight, here on V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
The phaser's no longer to my head to force me to watch these. I'm your co-host, Peter.
As you related to me, Casey even came along on this ride with you.
Yeah, my wife. Because of our scheduling constraints for the first 1 through 4, I couldn't wait for her schedule to get around for it. But these past 4, and we're going to be talking about season 3 of Picard, episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. She was there, and luckily the way you did break it up, she was able to come in without having seen the first 4. Lots of questions about how these pertain to season 1, or at least a little bit she saw, and I was happy to say, well, for the most part, not really. And also interesting to see her pick up on the captain of the Titan. What's the guy's name?
Liam Shaw.
Captain Shaw, that's right. She seemed to pick up on him real quick, and I said, well, maybe there's a couple scenes from the first few episodes that you might want to go back and check out, which she did not.
I mean, it held her interest, though, from the sound of it. She soldiered through 4 of these things with you.
Yeah, and the TLDR, I think, on the second act of Picard season 3.
And this is just, we were going to do 3, but we audibled midweek. And I'm like, actually watch 8, because 8's the next real firm stopping point. 9 and 10 are basically a movie completion.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good call. This is a clear second act. This is the second act low point, and you kind of emerge from that at the end.
Well, I'm going to say the high point was episode 5 into 6. And then
Agreed.
7 and 8, I'm going to say, for me personally, were probably the low point of the series, of the season.
Whoa. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. 5, and this is a rewatch for me. I think episode 5 may end up being my favorite because it has my favorite performances in it. It's not the most delicious piece of the Picard candy. It is the most nutritious meal that it hands you. And I think upon the rewatch, I'm enjoying that a lot more. 7 and 8, and 6 to a degree, that's when you kind of see how slapdash this thing ended up being, and from a production level. Clear audio issues, some weird takes, just all of the hallmarks of, we didn't get to do pickups because all of these actors are very old and some of them live overseas. So we basically had the time we had, and we had to just shoot it all. The ADR is very sparse, so they may not even have had like an ADR session with people. And you didn't get to like do extra scenes to like explain things that you kind of missed when you're like eating it together. Like, oh, did we explain why we did that? Oh no, I guess we just aren't going to be able to. So there's some of that. So it's kind of nitpicky, but I think the spirit, even in the weaker episodes, is still very strong, and it ends up. So it ramps up nicely there at the end of episode 8 to set you up for the finale. The pieces are in place.
Sure. So going into season 3, episode 5, Imposters. This one was written by Cindy Appel and Chris Derrick and directed by Dan Liu. No names I recognize at all in there.
I'm looking up if Dan Liu had any other credits, and it doesn't look like he did, aside from a Strange New Worlds episode. So he did Memento Mori, which was the sub-hunt episode of that show when they were against the Gorn.
Yeah, that's a solid episode. That's one of my favorites, actually, I think.
Yeah.
When they're right on the edge of that event horizon.
Correct.
What I do not enjoy and continue to fucking loathe is, of course, Raffi, and that's something my wife was quick to jump on, saying, why the fuck is she still in this? To which I couldn't answer. There's cool stuff happening in the Raffi scenes. It's a shame that Michelle Hurd is also involved in those scenes to drag them down, because she is not a good actor.
No.
And she is not a plausible action hero, even in the slightest.
Nope.
She was sold to us as Starfleet intelligence back in season 1, and that's something they've driven home harder. She's had 2.5 fights with Worf training, and by the end of this act, this 4-episode arc here, she may as well be Wolverine.
Knife fighting changelings in the hallway, taking him down. Yeah, suffice it to say, it is the crick in the neck you can't quite get out. She is used less. She is used probably to the best capacity that could be managed, but it is still just bad. I will note, for example, 0 uses of the phrase JL, right? Like, there's been clear improvement.
Sure.
But it's still not good.
I could buy Raffi conceptually if we were to give her the Mayweather treatment and just rewrite the character, the details, while maintaining the conceptual spirit of the character. If she was an angsty, broken savant that could just see patterns, a math whiz, you could even keep the drug addiction, right? Like maybe the drugs really bring it out and open the mind up.
Yeah, you could go that sort of direction with it. That she's addicted to the substances to do the best job she can.
Addict her to the mentats or whatever that was from in Fallout, right? Some sort of performance increasing brain drug. And she really made a great name for herself in Starfleet as the go-to intelligence person. Then it finds out she's been taking brain steroids, cost her her career. She's still great, but she always has to fight with like it's like Bane, you know. I could be more. I could be a superhuman. I was almost as smart as 7. Whatever. Maybe she's drinking like ground up fucking Borg pixie dust nanites. That actually would be pretty cool. Like, hey, I can overclock my brain by taking these limited duration nanites, but it's called whatever. Instead, they're trying to turn her into a Batman.
And again, you can make this character whatever you want. You can write the best fucking backstory for Raffi that you can think of. You still gonna have Michelle Hurd player. It's still gonna suck. Woman can't act. And it's just, she can't. I don't understand why people think she is a good actress. Like I don't think I could have that conversation with someone and treat it seriously. You know what was good though? I liked the Vulcan crime boss guy.
Amazing.
I thought that was a fucking awesome idea.
That guy, if it wasn't for Ro Laren coming in later, I'd say he stole the show.
Oh, yeah.
What an amazing concept. All of the guys' motivations lined up logically, which is something we've seen in the past, is that you can pervert logic to whatever end goal you want.
Just because you're logical doesn't mean you're a nice guy. You're not a total sociopath, right? Like, you can be a greedy asshole guy who's following logical precepts.
He looked cool. Him and the whatever the Skanky or whatever his Ferengi name was.
Yeah, the Ferengi crime boss brother.
They both had like real
Sneed.
Brooklyn underworld, like fresh haircuts. They both look jacked. They're doing steroids.
Face tats.
Fuck you up in a fight.
Yeah. It was the first scary Ferengi you've ever
I love that
seen.
Run DNC Vulcan logic symbol he's wearing.
Like, I'm a Vulcan, but I'm street.
I'm gangster. And for as imposing and a bad as dude as he was, I could see him going in and talking to any other Vulcan we've ever encountered, and that guy holding his own.
Absolutely. He's a man of his race's character. He's just a criminal.
He was awesome. The way that Worf and Raffi got played, specifically using a mobile holographic emitter, which is a BFD, right?
Reverse engineered that bad boy apparently in the last 30 years.
Sure.
I buy that.
And that ties all the way back to our dude doing season 8 Voyager, the big deal that Starfleet makes out of the mobile emitter.
Yeah, JK, he does that.
So Worf gets played, the little trap they try to spring where Raffi's a hologram and Raffi's up and, got her sniper rifle, but Logic Gangster prepares for their double cross and he ends up winning out.
Then
And then,
there's a triple cross though. And the triple cross is Worf has Klingon superpowers of getting stabbed, but can still then just get up and keep killing people.
so let's talk about Worf. Because at this point, he is turning into a cartoon character over
They
this.
definitely decided to play him more as the comic relief.
Which, why?
I think it works.
Mm-mm.
I think it works for this season because you need to have some levity, and just having Worf be hyper competent and turned into basically a warrior monk.
No, the word you're looking for is Jedi. Worf is a Jedi this season. And that doesn't bother me, right? I can buy Worf, who has always been, I'm going to do this to like, I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm going to
I'm not going to do it to
until it's
11. I'm doing it to 15.
right. I buy him learning the trick to slowing down your heart rate, being the most dangerous murder guy to ever murder guys. All that stuff's straight on Worf. But for every single line of dialogue he has to end with some sort of a zinger, it just gets to be too much, especially by the end, like when he's rescuing Riker and Troy and like, complaining about personal space and this and that. Like, it just...
You got to have the levity. I think that the levity moments break the scenes up nicely. And I think they, Worf's already had his drama. It's weird because you haven't seen his DS9 episodes. He has a ton of the development that the TNG guys never got.
Sure.
Right? Like he had a whole ass journey on that show. And so he's got less to like finish up because of that. Whereas everybody else, they kind of got cut short on being able to develop their characters into real humans because that didn't really happen on TNG until like season 4. And so by the time they kind of got out of the gate, they were already halfway through their run, right? And so a lot of the pleasure that has come from the season, we're going to talk a lot about it in a second when we talk about Ro, is just you have this feast of these actors being able to really like explore the depths of these characters in a way that was completely unexpected to me. Like not at all in a fan servicey way, but in a genuine actors
good TV way.
Yeah, good actors doing a cool actor shit way. And like Worf, well, I mean, he's the one in least of need of that. So we got to have someone who breaks things up, a little bit of comedy. We can take him in that direction. We can use him for that so that we can kind of let everybody else have that space to be dramatic because Worf's drama's already over.
When every single line of dialogue out of him has a zinger, though, it starts turning into cringe. And they get too close to that. And it stinks because his scenes are good and his portrayal is good. And I'm feeling Jedi Worf. But
he needed to be 20% more serious.
Yeah, like he didn't go full into like, oh god, like where I'm rolling my eyes. But yeah, I think if they backed it off 20%, make every third or every fourth time he talks have a little Marvel zinger in there, it would have worked way better. He also had some other lines of dialogues across this where there is not a warship, but like a clear preference to Klingon. Better, superior Klingon technology, better Klingon this, better Klingon that, like almost a disdain for Starfleet.
He's always been on Homer, though. Like he's always been that guy ever since TNG. The superiority of Klingon stuff was always a point of pride to him.
No, listen, I feel like, especially when he was talking to other Klingons too, like he was a lot more down, like negative on the Klingon stuff. So I don't know, maybe something happens in Deep Space Nine that really like drives him away from Starfleet. But for a guy who was a by the book security officer, yes man, fully embracing the dream of Starfleet, to see him kind of hold everything Starfleet at a arm's length felt very weird to me.
There's some explanation in the DS9 stuff for that. We'll eventually explore it. I think you'll really enjoy it, but I agree in part with you. I think I liked a lot the humor. I think a little less would have worked. But what the way they use it, I think I mostly accepted. With that discussion of the B plot out of the way, let's get to the heart of the matter of episode 5. And that is we get a massive return that I don't think anybody contemporaneous was expecting to happen. So you were fully spoiled that this occurred before you watched it.
Yeah, but I forgot she was coming in. Like, once I started watching these, I've been like, all right, when does Data come in?
Mm-hmm.
I know Data's coming. He's got to be on the Daystrom the Daystrom thing. They keep talking about a flawed AI security. I'm like,
that's him, right? Like
that's got to be
it.
Data. That's got to be Data. Or again, from the trailers, like Laura's in there somewhere. Moriarty's going to be in there somewhere. Like one of these guys are going to be the AI. So when we pick back up on the Titan and they've cleared, they use the alien baby thing to get out of there for whatever reason. Titan just didn't circle back around and completely obliterate the Shriek. Moops.
You have to handle that later.
That'll come back and haunt you. Riker turns command authority back over to Shaw, who's now healed up. And Shaw, with no shame whatsoever, is like, I fucked you guys over. I've been talking to Starfleet. They're coming over here to arrest you. Everybody's in trouble because I got you in trouble. You thought I'd be cool and, appreciate you guys just did some amazing heroic stuff to save the day, but you're going to space jail.
He does like, hey, I'll let you guys figure out whatever story you want to tell
Your
together.
bullshit story.
Got that. That's fine.
Reinstates 7 and 9 with I like him giving her the fucking night crossed.
I state you. Is what he does. It's like, you know what? You were stand up. I'll let you meet the gallows as my first officer. But definitely already told Starfleet about all the bullshit you pulled. You did hijack my ship, basically.
Intrepid shows up, which I think is very ugly. The way they do the deflector edition, that is absolutely hideous, which is fine because it's going to be a bad guy ship.
There's a brief scene when they're in the turbo lift and Shaw's like humming to himself, like, I'm about to watch the guy who killed all my friends get arrested. This is awesome. And they try to bite back a little bit. Like, we have saved the world multiple times. You realize that, right? Like, you shouldn't be enjoying this quite so much. And then starts to like, oh, you mean like when you guys hot dropped the Evan Enterprise D-saucer on Viridian 3? Or the time you broke the Prime Directive so you could make out with a local babe? Like,
what was the Devron system?
Oh, that was the All Good Things. He was describing the plot of All Good Things. With the temporal incursion in the Devron system, that was Q's thing about the crossing of the time-space continuum, which is funny because that means Picard reported on it because he was the only one who remembered it.
Mm-hmm.
They wound up in like hey, captains, Q did this fucky thing. Be prepared. Apparently he can fuck with all of time and space. He might cause you to be the very axis on which the judgment of humanity will be based. FYI.
So Starfleet informs, or actually the Intrepid informs Titan that a Starfleet intelligence officer is going to be coming over to take Picard and co. into custody.
On a shuttlecraft.
On a shuttlecraft, which at this point we know, or at least Beverly is starting to figure out that these changelings, there's something new about them. And there's some cool background info too. Like during the Dominion War, the anti-doppelganger security protocol started coming in.
Mm-hmm. Which is all like fully within the continuity of DS9. Like this is really like taking that and taking all of that seriously. Of like there was a whole protocol back then.
Anybody who's ever played D&D and encountered a doppelganger knows that as soon as you've got like reasons to doubt people are who they say they are, and are you really my friend, or are you just playing along with the dungeon master to try and fuck us over? Like, that's how you derail a D&D campaign, is doppelgangers. So changelings are a real fucking threat, and Starfleet seems like it has some pretty ironclad ways to rule that out, but this new class of changeling threatens all of that. And a lot of the technologies for verifying Starfleet as Starfleet seem to be based around scans that happen during transporter use. So the fact that they're coming over on a shuttle pod looks real bad.
And of course, when this security officer emerges with an entourage, it is none other than Ro Laren, played in all of her glory by Michelle Forbes.
Who's looking amazing, by
Which,
the way.
yeah, I mean, she looks fantastic. The deal, apparently, that Terry Matalas struck to get her to do this, because famously she had nothing to do with Trek, to the point where she turned down a second billing on DS9, right? She was supposed to be Kira Nerys, because Kira Nerys is supposed to be Ro Laren, and she just didn't want to do it. She wanted to be done. And so Terry Matalas, apparently his skills are not just in convincing Patrick Stewart to stop fucking his own show up, but also getting Michelle Forbes 30 years after the fact to come back to Star Trek. And there was only one condition, apparently, to get her to do it. Had to kill her at the end. That was it.
Why?
She didn't want to do it again.
What is
She's like,
she
I want to
doing?
end.
What is she doing that she hates the idea of solid work so much? Oh, to be independently wealthy in California.
I guess she doesn't need it. I don't know. Maybe she's got a rich husband. I don't know.
I'm
No Michelle
sure.
Forbes' life. You know, like,
Again, I mean, my wife was very excited to see. She's like, "Why do I recognize this lady?" I'm like, "She was the evil admiral on the Pegasus in Battlestar." And also that too. You're gonna sit there. You're gonna hate the shit out of Star Trek so much that you're not gonna take an amazing opportunity to have second billing on DS9, and then you're gonna turn around and do basically Voyager version 6, Battlestar
and
Galactica.
it's probably more attractive to her when it's things that she doesn't have to commit to for years upon years. That seems to be her attitude. Like, she did a whole season of True Blood because she was an antagonist and then got out of that.
Yeah, she was like the fairy, whatever.
Yeah, she was like the Greek Dionysian, like, weird shapeshifter. And she did Admiral Kane, but it was like a few episodes and appearance in a TV movie. Like, she gets to do it. She gets to like put a spin on it. She gets to get a performance out, and she gets to go do something else. That seems to be her vibe. But this is fucking awesome.
Let me tell you what this made me want. Give me some fucking short treks dealing with her specifically. Give me some one-offs. Because the first half of this episode where she shows up, real great job presenting her as I'm probably not the real Ro Laren at this point, because there's tons of suspicion pouring out from Beverly, which you're seeing, them dissecting organs into like quadrants, and then finally as they break it down into 20ths, these things melt into jello or whatever. It makes no sense that she would have been reinstated, but we've been shown, and I'm reluctant to again go into Picard season 1 or 2, but Starfleet does some shady ass shit. So going back in and scooping her out, and all that is exemplified through Picard's observations in this, right?
And that's the other part of this that makes this, I think, going to be my favorite episode of the whole season. We've said before when we were reviewing Picard, Patrick Stewart's too old to do this. Even in the first 4 episodes of the show, he seems to be he's been in a more commanding role. He's certainly being treated seriously, but he's still a little weak. He's still an 80-year-old man, and they've integrated that more into his character. So it's flowing, it's working, but you have a lot of the weight being carried by your supporting characters in those first 4 episodes, and for good reason. This is his best work since Logan in this episode. It's got to be so hard to like pick up this level of emotional intensity over a TV show you did 3 decades ago. But they managed to really sell the idea of first, you've got Picard, who he's fucking hated this bitch for 30 years. He has felt betrayed. He has felt hurt. He has felt professionally and personally wounded. And you see every inch of that in his performance. From when he's talking about it with Will to when he starts confronting her on a professional level, when he confronts her on a personal level, he's there 100%, delivering a level of intensity and richness to his portrayal that I have not seen in anything he's done since specifically Logan.
Yeah.
And it was really good.
It's an easy concept to get behind, right? There's nothing Star Trek exclusive about what we're seeing here. It's the most base Shakespearean conflict out there. It's betrayal, humiliation. It is a trusted friend putting a knife in your back. And these are absolutely things that, Patrick Stewart should be able to really wake himself up on. And those episodes towards the end of Ro Laren in TNG, they're good. And I'm sure at a certain point, these guys sit back and go, okay, well, let me watch what happened there. Let me try and tap into what I was thinking through these. And it's such a juicy setup, too, that Ro Laren would have come crawling back to Starfleet, turned herself in, then they would bring her back in through this rehabilitation program and this and that, all behind Picard's back. Picard, who was an admiral, who's pissed about this, who I'm sure, and they don't say this, but, that's probably a black mark on his record that his operative he sent in fucked him all over. And again, a point of humiliation. So not only did she get back in, but all of this happening exclusively behind his back. And now here he is at a disadvantage, and this old protege of his coming out from this black ops cloud and lording power over him. Great anger.
Oh, yeah. Has to just
humiliation.
Chap the ass of like, how in the hell are you the one who's going to sit in judgment? He's like, he's stewing from the beginning, right? Like he's sitting in the room with Riker and goes, the last time you saw her, she put a fucking gun to your head. Riker could have said, last time I've also put a gun to her head. My gun was my penis when we didn't have our memories, but fair is fair. And he's pissed then. He's like, she betrayed a commanding officer. The trust I put in her to pull that operation down. Like what is this? And when they start the personal level of the confrontation, and the piece of this that's so special is in TNG, in that last episode that she was in, which was like the second to last episode of the fucking show, it was clear that he and Ro had some kind of connection that went beyond their professional regard, right? It was beyond I'm mentoring a younger officer. They clearly connected on a personal level in this ambiguous pseudo-romantic fashion. Like I'm thinking of the scene when like they have to like that they're communicating covertly about her op, but they have to like act like she's a prostitute that's going to be selling her services to him. And that whole scene that they have at that bar, they're being like have to pantomime intimacy while she's expressing her concern. He's trying to give him orders, and like that it ends with this both a comment from Ro about the price that she's being asked to pay for her morals versus in the world of this play acting that they're doing, and it's like there's a lot going on there, and they actually pay that off 30 years later here. That's really good.
And through all of it, you honestly can't tell as the audience if she's a shapeshifter or not, because there's things that just clearly don't line up. Yeah. There's a lot of her story that's real flimsy, and Picard picks up on it strong. First thing I notice is where's her earring, and Picard calls that out specifically. So it takes a while before we get the answer. Is this the real Ro Laren or not? Even if it's not the real Ro Laren, it's still an amazing fucking performance. And you're like, all right, even if this isn't her, like whatever shapeshifter this is, like there might be actually a good bad guy shapeshifter I can get behind, because at this point I'm fucking done with main bad guy lady.
You are not a fan of Vatic by the end of this.
Vatic started off really good, and I think she just got too much screen time, and there wasn't enough to the character there to really to hold it in the air, right? The wings weren't wide enough to get it to the heights they had this character operating
Put
at.
her on the focus on her in both 7 and 8 was a mistake. You know, like there was enough content for one episode there, not
Yeah.
two. But I love that the pain between the two of them over her ethics versus his duty is what is essentially the two-factor authentication that neither of them are changelings, because only they could communicate like that. There's no one who could have known how they felt about each other except for them, because they never even figured out for themselves. It's literally what Picard says at the end when Will goes to console him. He goes, "You know, I know you must feel," and he's like, "No, you don't, because I don't. I didn't know. I still don't."
It's a message comes through from Beverly saying, watch out.
Yeah, trust no one.
They can survive our scans. They break the meeting. Picard goes off. Actually, Picard just walks out of his interrogation. I got shit to do. See you later. She confronts him one-on-one over by the holodeck because they have to keep reusing the same set pieces.
She pulls a gun on him and forces him in there.
I hate these fucking phasers so much, man.
It gets some close-ups.
I also love the fact that the safety settings for the holodeck now is just on the lock screen of the phone. The easiest fucking thing to bump. So he pulls a gun on her and they really start biting into each other hard at that point. Yeah. So you thought that she was concerned that he was a changeling then?
Yeah. I think that she was trying to make sure he was who he was, and he was doing the same thing. Because ultimately, what does she do immediately after they've confirmed each other's identities? Oh, I raced here as soon as I knew you were involved in this nonsense, because of all of the people I've ever encountered, I know I can trust you to do the right thing. You're the man, driven by duty. It's literally the reason why we haven't spoken in 30 years. I have to give you this. Perfect sense.
So good.
Perfect. Just 10 out of 10. No notes. I can believe that they got her to do it, and I couldn't believe how good she was doing it. And like you, it's a shame Michelle Forbes hates regular work, because I'd watch her all day.
Give me a couple short treks. Show me her journey, quitting the Maquis, deciding to go back into Starfleet, whatever brainwashing program they put her through. And then this. I don't want Section 31 out of Discovery with Michelle Yeoh. I do want Ro Laren's intelligence adventures. I don't think she's Section 31. I think she's just Starfleet intelligence. But man, this chick's doing some dirty ass shit.
That's, and it makes sense. Hire your, a ethical but rebellious former officer that knows how to do dirt and is willing to do dirt on your behalf, because that they will, they are willing to make decisions that your tried and true officers aren't. There's a story there that you can definitely turn to and do good content with. You just know you're never going to see it.
By the end, Ro knows that shit's fucked up. She gives Picard her earring, which Picard had said, "Where's that earring at?" before. I also like that, he slams her, says, "You wanted the earring. You said you were supporting your family, and it was your honor. It was your pride. You were making it about you, and you just wanted to be different. And you're a bitch." She dips. She takes her security people with her after saying, shit's real fucked up. I'm surrounded by spies. I can't trust anybody. I'm bringing you on here, and you've got freedom to do stuff right now that I don't have access to. She flies back over to the Intrepid.
They conclude their personal conflict in a way that I really liked, which was she opens up just a bit to him, say, "I really wish we could have connected. I really wish whatever we had 30 years ago could have worked, and it didn't. And it's too late now, right? Take this, try to solve this problem. I can do no more."
She flies out. Her security detachment, of course, are changelings. They drop a bomb on the floor. They beam back over to Titan. She's unable, or at least unwilling, to try to get out of this alive, and decides to sacrifice herself, flies over to the Intrepid. The bomb blows up. Really cool effect as it blows the nacelle out.
Oh yeah, they spent some time on the very basic
Fluidic.
effects. Yeah, like not only does the shuttlecraft hit the nacelle and it blows out, boo, 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 boo. There's a great shot of it like rising up like an angry dragon with the fucking nacelle on fire. The music crescendos at that point in a way that's very threatening, and it's a real great indicator to the audience of like, we have now entered the real plot of
Yeah.
this season. Like that thing you saw for 4 episodes before, that was the appetizer. That was a warm up. That was a nice friendly TNG thing. Now some real shit's happening.
And it's a classic frame job. The alien, the changelings on Intrepid are able to use this event to say, oh, we were shot on. Titan has to go down. We're going to kill everybody. Black Ops. Nobody survives. And Shaw, who has done everything within his power to not be a part of the gang, to be that outsider guy pointing and snitching on everybody, now sees shit's fucked up, yo. And like it or not, Picard is on the right side, and I have now been forced as a bad boy, and I'm going to have to roll with these dudes, and we're going to be on the run. I loved Riker's line at the end of it. He's like, we need to get out of here. They're coming for us. Who? Everybody.
I mean, I do like that Shaw's like, okay, I guess I'm part of the crew now. Sign me up. I've resisted this for 5 episodes, but alas, you rascals have finally roped me into your schemes. Let's go. And we do end though with our first indicator of like Jack's abilities are beyond visions, and the changelings confront him on Titan, and he taps into some sort of Jason Bourne mode in his brain, and he just promptly murders all 4 of them. Just bloop, blap, bloop. No problems. And they end with him saying, like, I got problems, Mom. I don't know. There's something going on with me that goes beyond I'm lonely. Like, I've got things are happening in regards to me.
Season 3, episode 6, The Bounty. This one's Christopher Monfett did the writing. Dan Liu did the directing. And we take the next big step in getting the gang back together.
We do have like that very classic Vadic starts executing her own people when they talk back to her moment, I think, in this episode. Like classic supervillain thing, right? Like it was kind of almost quaint of like your underling giving you good advice gets murdered. I haven't seen that trick in like 10 years.
I did like the Burgle line.
Oh yeah, so excellent use of the word Burgle Admiral.
That's fun comedy that I can enjoy. It doesn't need to be Worf being cringy and zingy all the time. 7 and 9's the next person I want to discuss here.
Oh, I guess they did wrap up by finally uniting Worf and Raffi with the rest of the plot. So that
turns out Worf's handler was Ro Laren.
Correct. So he was working for Ro, and so now they've got Ro's database that was on the earring, and so that's clued them into what is available to be known. And of course, this allows them very early in episode 6 to like get Raffi and Worf onto the ship so they can be part of the mix. And so this is where we wind up in the first kind of briefing scene with everybody, which is mostly run by Worf and Raffi, like trying to explain what they've known so far. And you've actually have Seven and Shaw now fully committed part of the team here. So everyone is working together. There's actually a moment after the whole Burgle thing where Shaw's like starting to finally like be like, yeah, that was a good use of the word Burgle. I'm one of Picard's underlings. I can see why you all like this. Like this is there's joy in this.
So 7 and 9, or as you may know her, the smartest human being in the galaxy.
Correct.
Also Terminatrix. that has shot a lot of people,
And
even before
particularly
she went.
coworkers, definitely around the warp core. Yeah,
Great at shooting Starfleet people.
absolutely. One of the best.
Really good at friendly fire. Seven of friendly fire. Is it because she's not a TNG cast member that they really just backburner her, or is she just too good and Metalis understands that she's OP as hell and it's just better to act like she's not and push
Playing
her
the
to the
long
side?
game with her. Like Metalis, again, we talked about this first episode, right? She's the reason he has this job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're old friends from when he was a young man running scripts for Voyager as a PA. So he's looking to get her regular work, right? He wants to do the Legacy show. Jerry Ryan wants to do that with him. So this is the TNG last hurrah, right? You kind of have to let them be the focus because that's how this is going to work. And Jerry Ryan can kind of take a back seat now because the intention is, of course, for her to be the lead of the show that would succeed this. So I think that's the move they made, and I think that ultimately works. They backseated her not because of like a plot contrivance reason, but of we only have so many minutes in an episode, and we know who this is about, and it's
I
not
guess
really
it's
necessarily
hard
about you.
because we just watched so much Voyager, and seasons 4 through
7.
6 are basically the 7 of 9 show.
Yeah, that's
where
true.
we get-
7 is a little less that, but 4 through 6 definitely are.
She is the best ever, and she is the smartest and the strongest and has the best aim, and she's like Data but edgy with a great body. So seeing her go from Captain Marvel to just the lady that gets to come in every 6 scenes, it's kind of jolting. But
Treat her like a normal actor. Like instead
treat her like a normal person instead
Yeah.
of this forthright, imperious blonde who asserts her will on all of those around her, and
who was also
solves every plot.
shot low so you can get her butt into the frame. Yeah, like a different world
Absolutely.
here. They set themselves up for trying to rob the Daystrom station. They've decided we have to go there. Why? Because the changelings stole something from there. We know it's bigger deal than the portal tech, which is already horrific. So I think the only way is we go because we have a key that they got from the Vulcan crime lord.
Yeah.
So to get past the AI, so we can find out what was stolen. Okay. Buy that.
That's really where it stood out to me that 7 of 9 is being throttled. Because the away team that goes over is Worf, Riker and Raffi, maybe?
It is a bit of a nerfed Mass Effect team. It's not the 3-man squad I would take for the final mission at the Citadel. I will say though, in terms of Mass Effect as well, I don't know if you picked up on it. The music is much more Mass Effect-y.
Cynthia, yeah.
In episode 6 and 7 in particular, and like it works. And we've already drawn this conclusion that really Mass Effect is the inheritor on a video game level of the whole Star Trek sort of vibe. But it is interesting to kind of see it get bought back here in terms of music, because I don't think that was an accidental choice. That seemed very much in that rhythm on purpose. They go over, they manage to get in, but
well, let's talk about that real quick. Again, you're putting together your away team mission. Basically Fort Knox.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Tom Barris isn't around to be your guide to Fort Knox. But you got, I don't know if we'd class, how would you class 7 of 9? Miranda Lawson?
I would say 7 of
Edie?
9 is yeah. I would say, yeah, 7 of 9 is more Edie than anyone else. I mean, that's also played by the imperious blonde woman who played a robot. So like there's a lot of commonality there.
Sure. There might be some hacking. She's got cybernetics. Instead you bring Jar Jar Binks. Portrayed by Raffi.
I was going to say Raffi is a ninja. Don't you want ninjas?
She's not a ninja.
She adds nothing to this except to provide the person who doesn't know who Data is, I guess.
So they get in, they start going around. great museum scenes. Here's the bones of, I think I saw Kirk. There's the
Correct.
Genesis device.
Mm-hmm.
What else was in there? Attack tribbles.
Attack tribbles. That's the only things you really see. And as they're going through, in a very clever play, the AI, which is Data, hears Riker's voice and does a challenge to determine his authenticity, right? Because he's aware that there's changelings. They've robbed him. So we can't trust what we see, can't trust what we hear, can't even trust their genetics, right? So how do I know this is Will Riker? I'm going to see if he remembers my time we met. And I'm going to play into the fact he has perfect pitch because he's a musician to see if he can actually answer the challenge question. And he does. Very nice.
The Crow hologram took me, well, actually, it wasn't until Riker laid it out, and I was like, what the fuck are these crows about?
Yeah, it's from his Dream episode.
Mm-hmm.
And they got the guy who played Moriarty from back in the day, who's still a working actor, apparently, does a fine job. I honestly did not know he was still alive. He seemed so old then, but apparently he was made up to look old then. So
without just covering his face in garbage, which is the way they usually did people looking old in early TNG.
And so it was nice that they brought him back and that he did an excellent job of being the kind of bombastic Moriarty. And sure enough, when the doors open within Daystrom, who should be in there but a disassembled B4 and an old-looking version of Data. And we get a bit of backstory that ties this into season 1 in a way where it's trying real hard to climb up the hill so that you can make sure you have all your legacy characters back, because Data's the hard one. Data literally has died twice now. Died in Nemesis, and then they ran this whole plot in episode 1, that in season 1 rather, where Data has to die again for some reason, and then they do that. They're like, okay, well, we've got to somehow justify bringing him back again. How do we do that? We'll make it so that Alton Soong, a character we saw at the very end of Picard season 1, that's like the unknown love child of the original Doctor, Noonien Soong, decided to make another super android body, but instead of putting himself in it, he puts Data, Lore, B4, Lol, and himself in it, but all at the same time, and then makes it old so that, whoever this ends up being can experience old age, i.e., Brent Spiner's like no to all of that makeup,
including sit-ups.
Like, I'm gonna be an old man set to sea now. If you want me to do this, I'm not putting on 20 things to make up, and I'm not getting on the Stairmaster for 10 seconds. And that is how they're going to climb up this hill. I am fine with that. It's dumb that they have to climb it, but it's there. They find a way. Fine.
Data just being Brett Spiner with contact lenses and a wig, I'm fine with that. All this nonsense about I'm going to dump his homicidal fucking twin brother that is responsible for the death of an entire colony, also, and tried to use Borg mercenaries to go after the Federation. Like, it's a big question mark.
I think I buy it from the perspective that if this is supposed to represent the culmination of the Soongs as a lineage throughout history, which makes sense because, Soong was... We've seen Soong in Enterprise. We've seen Soong in TNG. We've seen Soong even in prior seasons of Picard. Then you put it all in there, right? Like, whatever we're going to wind up with here, it has to constitute all of our life's work over multiple generations so that, this maybe can finally function and be the culmination. It's a work of art. Right? And they keep saying, like, this is a work of art, not science. So I'll buy it.
What happened to Lore?
Was
he involved in Picard season 1?
No. This is the first time Lore has shown up since he got beat in TNG. He was disassembled, is what they say.
They disassembled him after the rogue Borg mercenaries, and then Data steals the emotions chip,
Correct.
which gets inserted in Generations.
Yes.
So presumably Lore's body would have been on the saucer when it crash landed.
Well, I mean, the lore body could have been sent to Daystrom or any other number of places after he was
But you
captured and
never see it
disassembled.
actually destroyed.
Correct. In fact, they expressively say disassembled as to say not destroyed, but
Sure.
he's in storage somewhere.
I always like Lore, was one of my favorite characters, but then again, I was a child watching the show. So he's a synth, which is what Picard is. So does he still have like crazy android strength, or is this just like a genuine, authentic human experience?
It's from the sound of it, the way they frame it, I think it's supposed to be a genuine human experience. Aside from his robotic, he's got like an insert in the back of his head. Like there's some still like data-y things going
He's
on
got
here.
overhead projector eyes.
Yeah, like he's still more robotic than Picard's was, but I think that's because like, well, we're putting a lot of robot people in here. We might as well give him some robot pieces.
Sure, but he's not like picking cars up and throwing it then.
And I think that that's the intention, because they weren't going to go in this direction anymore, to satisfy Spiner's requests, I'm sure.
Sure. If I were to rewrite this, I'd say, all right, we've got a backup code of Data. Lore's body was still around. We can dump him in there on that. Or I do like the idea that like this was kind of the plan all along. Data represented an aspect, Lore represented an aspect. None of these guys were supposed to be the final product, but we realized there was no final product to assemble. It was bringing these two sides of the same coin together, and that is the finished product. And that it's
absent a better plan, I'm dying. I'm going to jam him in here, and that's going to be our final testament. We'll see if this works.
There's a lot of corny shit going on with Data in this. It was not my favorite part of the episode. Watching Brett Spiner try to portray Data a third time now, right? Well, fourth really, because you had the regular show, you had the movies, you had, I thought, pretty great performances in Picard. Like all the nonsense of fucking Picard aside, like the Data stuff was good.
Yeah, actually, it was like we were kind of pissed that his goodbye was so beautiful for a show that didn't deserve to have that kind of emotion.
By the time you get into it here, though, I feel like he's having a hard time nailing the voice down. I don't know if part of him was like really reluctant to go back to doing this again, if like an arm got twisted behind his back, or he really wanted money or what, but it seemed like he was having a hard time hitting the notes.
I mean, I think part of that is, he's trying to switch between essentially playing two different versions of the character, hard switch between them right in front of you, and it can kind of blend together a bit.
No, I thought the Lore stuff was really good. Like just the way maybe his voice changed.
He's old. Yeah. I mean, like
Picard wasn't that long ago. I need to see what the last two episodes look like when we have like just Data again.
Although it's not Data. It is Data with extra steps. Data with some life attached to it. Some
Data without, 3 sentences of Data and then 5 sentences of Lore, and then just straight portrayal of one character, not this fragmented thing.
While these adventures are going on, there's 2 other things happening on the ship. One, there's more Picard Jack bonding, because Jack they suspect has inherited Picard's fatal brain thing from season 1. And we also have them getting made. The Titan gets made outside the station right away. So they have to flee, because if they get tagged by these ships, they're going to be able to follow them wherever they go. And they ultimately decide that their next best option is to head to the Fleet Museum for assistance to try and find some way to extract their robbery team. And when they head to the Fleet Museum, it's the old starbase, which is neat. That's what they take, the old starbase, and put it here, and then have a bunch of rings around it that have like legendary starships in it. some of which we see up close. And of course, who should be leading the Fleet Museum? But Commodore Geordi LaForge.
I really like LeVar Burton's performance in this. And Geordi gets to come up a few times in Star Trek, most notably Timeless, when we see Captain LaForge of the Odyssey?
Challenger.
Challenger, that's right.
Galaxy class ship, the USS Challenger.
So we've seen Geordi pop up a few times between movies, a little bit of Voyager, and some what ifs here and there. At this point, Geordi's a family man. He's got 2 daughters, one of which serves at the museum with him, and the other one is actually, conveniently enough, stationed on the Titan. And Geordi's conflict is good, and it's, I want to run to your side. I want to help you. I want to relive the good old days. But if even half of what you're saying is true, you're dead, and everybody who helped you is dead, and I got to worry about my girls.
Yeah.
And as bad as I want to help you relive the good old days, I got to worry about them.
It makes sense, though. He's a perfect example of what we talked about when these guys feel like they have actually aged 30 years as their characters. Geordi has been a captain. He's in fact promoted beyond being a captain. This man has been a leader. He's married. He has grown adult children that he is still protective of. He still does the thing with his hands. He still acts and talks the same way you'd expect Geordi to talk, but as a man of accomplishment, of confidence. This is no longer the enthusiastic kind of young blood. This isn't as a officer as accomplished as all of his prior bosses. In fact, he outranks Riker and Worf. He made flag rank. Those 2 stopped at captain. And I liked that his attitude is much more taciturn, much more like, I have things to lose. I have to keep them in mind. I can't just do what I want to do and be your grease monkey. And that ultimately, obviously, gives him an arc here in this episode. My only complaint is that it is super fast because they just don't have time to develop it, because they have so much other stuff to do. And, they have to do the whole plot and then give like space. Deanna's got to show up, we've got to finish all the data stuff. Geordi's going to play in that, obviously, but he's got to kind of just hit the gas on all the family stuff and just wrap it up in this episode because they don't have too much more time.
As quickly as they do it, I don't think they do it disservice. It's strong. He carries it. You see it. It's an easy concept to understand, and LeVar Burton, despite directing some of the worst Star Trek episodes of all time, shows us that he understands what the point is actually supposed to be.
Yeah, he understands the product. Even if he maybe doesn't get the best directorial assignments, the man knows Trek, and he knows where his character's supposed to be with this stuff.
Lots of great stuff going on in this episode. You got Data kind of cooking in the background. You've got this great thing going on between Picard and Geordi, where Picard's trying to sell him on the mission. You've got the Way team in danger back on Daystrom Station. And then you get the visual eye candy buffet of all of the cool fucking ships. And we get to go on a nice slow tour with them, courtesy of Jack Crusher and 7 to 9, chilling out on the bridge, which might as well just be a fucking date of them flipping through the channels and checking out all the hot ships of yesteryear.
Jack Crusher in this episode successfully flirts with 7 of 9 and then goes and then successfully flirts with Sidney LaForge. The man has charm. And the one here where, going through the old ships, like, hey, there's the Defiant. We get a little of the DS9 theme in the background. Then let's see a classic Constitution class ship. We've got the New Jersey and like the TOS era look. Oh, and we got the Enterprise A. We got a movie theme, right? Clean lines. I'm a Constitution class man. But then, of course, we finish with a high-def shot, a beautiful shot of the USS Voyager. The Voyager theme comes up. We get some 7 of 9 kind of reflection. It's a very nice scene.
We also touch on the fact that you've got the Bird of Prey.
Yeah, USS Bounty. I remember that. It was hard to find because it was like cloaked at the bottom of the ocean. Hey, wait a
Wink, wink.
second. I'm gonna go see if this girl I'm trying to nail is up for committing some larceny with me. Although Big L, unfortunately for the LaForge sisters, and that one is a professional actor and one is not, and it's very clear which one is which.
You know, it doesn't really stand out that bad. And if LeVar Burton's terms to do this show were that you're going to involve my real daughter in it,
Fair enough.
she does a great job.
She
I
does
think.
fine.
And, you know,
She,
let her portray Raffi.
that would be an improvement.
LeVar Burton's not professional actor daughter acts circles around Michelle Hurd.
Not
Enough
even
said.
close.
Yeah.
Not even close. Sydney continues to grow on me as I continue to watch this. Like, her actress is really good, and she's playing the plucky newbie Starfleet person in a way that's
Doesn't
very
make me want to
authentic.
throw up in my mouth at all.
Yeah. And the more she's on screen and the more she's involved, it's actually a bonus. And sure enough, Jack Crusher throws the Picard charm on and manages to get her to go rob that bird of prey real quick. And we know that they've robbed that bird of prey because the Titan cloaks. And it's
Side note, Jack Crusher grows on me exponentially each episode as well. There's some stuff. There's some hokey shit going on with him that I think would have been easy to roll your eyes and like scoff at. This guy sells it though. But yeah, rather than stealing the fucking cloak off the Defiant, they get it off the Bounty. Why does this museum have a fully operational cloak that is against all of the treaties and everything else? Yeah.
I do like the how many he goes through all of the problems the fact that the Titan just cloaked causes. You've broken all of these treaties. Do you have any idea of what this is going to cause? And Picard just goes, put it on my tab. Like, we're in deep on this one, Jordy. Come on.
They're gonna kill me. All right, I don't give a fuck. We got a 5-star rating right now, buddy.
You said it yourself, right? We are running from the helicopters right now. Are you in? Or are you out? Like, let's go.
Ultimately, things go very poorly over at Daystrom Station. Not everybody's able to beam out. They get data, but Picard or Riker gets tagged and caught behind and ends up in the hands of evil changeling lady. So they're going to have to contend with that.
Oh, and they revealed that, they've also captured Deanna. That's a big deal there at the end. Is Vadic already has Deanna, and so Will and Deanna are captured together on the Shrike.
Season 3, Episode 7, Dominion, written by Jane Maggs, directed by Deborah Kampmeyer.
Probably the worst episode of the season, unfortunately. Not bad by any stretch, but definitely the one where the strain of trying to do all of the things they're trying to do starts to show. The sloppiest in terms of writing, some plot holes, some things I imagine they would like to have back if they could kind of redo it. That said, though, starts with another surprise cameo.
Hey, Tuvok. How you been,
What's
buddy?
up? Makes sense, right? We have not yet explored why 7 of 9 has not been able to involve her homies. All of Picard's homies are involved. But we know 7's got homies. So where are they at?
And that's what's happening here, is they are, before moving any deeper, because now they know shit's going to go down at Frontier Day. The entire fleet's going to be there. Commodore LaForge, super against this. We also find out that all of the ships are networked, which I'm sure is going to come in as some sort of like, we're going to put a virus out there and it's going to pass between all the ships because all the ships are
Battlestar
networked.
Galactica shit right there.
So
they also know the Changeling stole Jean-Luc Picard's original body.
So between that and Jack, there's some sort of biometrics that's going to go on. They don't know what exactly going to happen. They know it's not good. They got to get this all figured out before the end of the world comes in the form of whatever the changelings are going to do during this. But right now they're trying to drum up some support. You can sit there and say, all right, well, where's the fucking all the Romulan favors and stuff that Picard should have from all of his dealings in Picard season 1 and whatever the fuck else happens. The Romulans, the Klingons, like there should be a lot of people that are super anti Dominion founder changelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what the scope of the TV show is. And whereas it was unforgivable for Picard to do anything he did in season 1 without involving the rest of the crew, here it's like, you got the core people together. I get why you're not going to go too deep, and I'll take the Tuvok shout out while I have it. Unfortunately, it's not the real Tuvok. It's evil changeling lady. She shifts over into Riker and says, "I'm fucking dead." What's the fun of superpowers if you're not going to use them to emotionally abuse other people?
I think that the changeling that they're talking to is not Vatic. It's another infiltrator into Starfleet that's taken Tuvok's place. I don't think it's intended to be Vatic. But yeah, you get Tim Russ. He's Captain Tuvok. There's a is he real? Is he real? They make you think he's real. They even bring in the Voyager music, only because Seven of Nine is rope-a-doped at the last second, gotten him to put his guard down, thinking he has fooled them. Only that no, Seven of Nine has outsmarted him and gotten him to blunder into some shit he would never have actually
I love
blundered
that
into.
it was anti-Kolinar protests.
Yeah, and that they used the fact that there was a whole episode where her thing was secured by a mind meld from him when she had all the split personalities. That you would have known that. You helped me fix it, but you didn't. It's a good use of the two-factor authentication, shows how slick Seven of Nine is, and also answers, this is why none of the Voyager homies are involved, because we have reached the limit of who we can get into this without running into, Among Us replacement people.
There you go. Not a lot of new locations that we're going to be hitting here. We're in budget control mode right now.
Absolutely.
Shaw's not in a uniform anymore. Neither is 7 and 9, which...
They're in their jackets. They're in the field jackets.
The Fat Man jackets, as we will see by the time everybody sits down around the table at the end of episode 8. Those are the Peter jacket there.
They had Shaw and Seven wear them so that they wouldn't seem out of place that all of their elderly crew are wearing them,
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even though they could probably just continue to wear their normal uniforms and it looks just as flattering as always. Well, we don't want the rest of everybody to stick out, so everyone's getting into the field jackets now.
Titan's got to get.
I'd buy one of those.
I'm sure they'll be available for sale, Joe. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
They have to go get Titan into a pickle. And that's going to happen courtesy of some compromised command codes. What was going on there exactly? I didn't rewatch that scene. That's a distress signal, or that's a Federation broadcast that captains can make to alert others to their presence, but in doing so, kind of secretly communicating the fact that shit's fucked up, yo?
Yeah, so it was a compromised prefix code used by captains in distress to ping their designated starships, giving the enemy the ship's location, but letting Starfleet know the captain has been caught and compromised. That is the explanation. So it gives up your location, but by transmitting it, you're communicating the SOS. So basically everyone knows where you are, but your team knows like you're in trouble. Presumably they'll respond. That's what it's supposed to. It's like a desperation move.
Riker gives that up, of course, because there is a threat that you are going to assist us, or I'm going to kill your wife in front of you. Luckily, for all the people that get executed in the next couple episodes, for Riker, Troy was not among those killed. So off the Titan goes, and it does not go well for it. Oh, also of note, before Ro Laren departed the show, she ordered like 3/4 of Titan's crew to be relocated over to the Intrepid?
Correct. So this is again to cover for the fact there's not a lot of extras on the show because it couldn't afford them. So there's no one at the Fleet Museum. That's like another thing. There's like no explanation why there's no one at the Fleet Museum at all. Right? Just can't afford it.
Listen, if you got to spend your money on extras or badass shots of Voyager and other hero ships, you put your money in the right place. No complaints.
So they are hiding at a another DS9 reference, which is the Chintaka scrapyard, and they come up with this plan, and they sort of part of it's very ingenious, and they explain it well, and part of it they don't explain at all. Like one key part of it, they're trying to get Vadic to take the bait that they're incapacitated so that she will expose herself in some fashion and allow them to rope-a-dope her into a prison scenario. And the first piece of this that is done quite well is the fake log from the VSS Taplana, which is supposed to be a Vulcan starship in Starfleet's service, which I thought was a very interesting continuity note. So USS is the designation, I guess, for Earth ships, whereas VSS would be the designation for Vulcan ships. And they plant this fake log using, you can hear Tavine's voice, right? This is the science officer on the Titan doing this log with like other officers in the background. You can kind of tell are like doing the color commentary of this battle against the Titan. And they find a Vulcan ship to kind of put themselves up against to make it look like they're both dead in space. And then after putting that fake log into place, they try and tempt Vadic to come over to capture her. Presumably, they intended to have a scene that explained why they plugged in Data. They don't. They don't explain what part Data has in all of this. Maybe it's to create the force field thing, because like his android brain timing would be perfect. But because they don't explain it, the problem is that the plot falls apart because he's plugged in and they haven't actually expressed to the audience why he needed to be plugged in the first place. Because he wasn't. He was just in sickbay in a stasis field, unable to move, just kind of talking, switching between Data and Lore before.
As Lore represents a major threat, which Geordi very clearly communicates. Like, we know Lore is bad news. Lore has brought the ship to its knees many times before. Plugging him into the brain of this ship, really bad idea, as they will find out, because of course Lore takes over, and right at the worst moment possible, Lore starts fucking up all of Picard's plans and gives Vadic the chance to start running some hot dick. Back to Data and Picard in the previous episode, where they're asking Data, like, hey, you were the security system over at Daystrom, like, also even that too, like, conceptually it's cool, realistically, and they intimate that this Daystrom is like a Section 31 black site, basically, right?
Correct.
It's like some SCP shit. Like, we're going to take one of the monsters here and we're going to use it as like free labor. We can't just use a regular computer. We're going to use, like fucking goody two shoes Picard's right hand man. We're going to plug him in.
What could possibly go wrong? It's like, put an SCP in charge of the whole facility. Seems good.
Yeah. This is the relationship between Picard and Data that should have been featured in episode 1, and that like heightened sense of like, Data was like my son, and I cared about him more than anything else, and it's the only family I care about. I'm going to become completely consumed with this fucking plot.
No. Yeah, you're absolutely... We complained about this back in the day. Like, this makes no sense. They were the main characters in the movies together, but Picard didn't care for Data in any particular way aside from, and I am a senior officer mentoring a younger officer and trying to nurture this life form as a good Starfleet officer should, not because like he's my precious baby.
Right.
It makes no fucking sense.
He's a good friend, not my precious baby. Yeah. So the relationship in here, and it's hard for me not to nitpick and be like, you know what? Why didn't Picard, fall over crying and hug him? Oh my God, I thought I'd lost you. Like, no, this is the way they should have been acting. Also suspiciously absent is the fact that nobody at any point has told Data, like, hey, you got kids. They're fucking badass ninjas. Hey, by the way, we're fighting these fucking changelings. They're a real handful. Why don't we have your daughter bring all her badass robot ninja friends over here? They could probably help us out.
Yeah, they owe Picard a solid for saving them. I'm sure they could be handy.
Saving the entire galaxy from the Reapers, if you'll recall.
This was something actually Terry Metalis himself brought up as a shortcoming to say, like, of the many things that fell victim to the lack of budget, exactly what you're describing could not occur, even though he did want his original script, like plotting for the whole season included it.
Doge, or was Doge her name?
The Was Doge the one that died?
Died? I don't
Or
know.
whatever. The Isabrones.
You're asking me to go through the recycling bin of my brain. I deleted that shit a long fucking time. I was actually thinking about all this when I was like doing prep for the show. And then I had a real good laugh thinking about the Tal Shiar Shiar and the fucking Lannister brother and sisters like dry humping each other. That fucking stupid boot knife that killed.
The guy whose entire personality is I am Hispanic. Like, yeah, it was awful. And Metalis said, like, I definitely wanted to include something that like communicated to Data that he's got like offspring. He's got like literal successors. There's a whole race of synthetics that his, that
DNA
exist.
has fucking spawned whatever the fuck that was.
I mean, but he said like I just couldn't afford to do any of that, so they didn't. So I buy it. You're doing what you can here. There's a great scene of Geordi unleashing his emotions, trying to communicate past lore to Data when Lore's taken over. Probably just his best moment of the season. Just explaining what Data's death did to him, because he never got to express that, right? Like,
again, Picard season 1, if anybody loved and had this super bond with Data, it was not Picard, it was LaForge. You get a good taste of that here. There's two emotional outpourings. One is Geordi trying to reason past Lore's stranglehold over Data, and the second is once Data has fully taken over, Geordi is saying, I've missed you, you mean a lot to me, blah, blah, blah. And the hard part of that is, for as hard as LeVar Burton delivers, I don't feel that Brett Spiner hits the right beats in reciprocating that end of the scene.
I think the emotional state Data is in is still just not quite as. They actually make a plot point of it by the end of the series, of like that his emotional state is still a work in progress. So I guess I'm forgiving of it in that moment because I kind of know what happens. But I agree. Like he's much more heartfelt, and he's a little bit more, just like happy to be here, which is a bit of a mismatch, but at least they play into it later on. Like at least it's not just like, oh, this was just a bad take and we left it in.
You're being
like,
very kind
intended.
to Brett Spiner. That's very charitable of you.
I am.
So the great plans that they had to get these changeling motherfuckers under control goes real sideways. Picard captures changeling captain in sickbay. They get a force field around her. They're trying to interrogate and find out what the fuck's going on. Why do they want Jack? You got Bev and Picard kind of tag teaming her.
Probably get Amanda Plummer's best scene in there, where she's like explaining her backstory. And that, like, yeah, I'm a monster because, first and foremost, your organization tried to bioweapon my people. So fuck you for that. And which is very true. I mean, as a mild DS9 spoiler, but accurate beef that they have. And two, me and my homies got caught up in whatever Section 31's bullshit was, and we just got tortured all the time. And they deliver it in a way that makes you feel it. Like, it's just goo, right? Changelings are just these goo people, but they're getting like burned, they're getting like soldered, getting chemicals dumped on them. You get like the pain, you get her narration. Comes together nice.
Been there, done that, man. That's a real. I'm a monster. I'm the monster you made. I'm Frankenstein's creation. I'm a reflection of your own dark soul. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, true. I will say it's not a new idea.
Been there, done that. All right. This is Jack from Mass Effect, and maybe that's why all this was like whatever to me, because Jack did it a lot better than how it's presented here. So it's kind of yawn, whatever. By the end, force fields go down. and Picard and Beverly Crusher, Beverly being a super badass that has killed many people this season, both point blank unloading on evil changeling lady as she scoots along the floor, then goes vertical and like goes up into a ceiling vent and just escapes.
Inexcusable. I'm sorry. Was there no other way to pull this escape scene? Like, that
She
was,
couldn't go T1000 and have like tentacles knock the
yeah,
phasers out of her hand as she runs away and jumps through a fucking vent in the floor.
inexcusable. Like, it sticks out so hard when you see it of like, oh, okay, so these guys just can't shoot now for some reason. They can't just hit the giant blob with their rapid fire phase pistols. Give me a fucking break, guys. Like, I don't. Is that you just didn't have time to do anything else? You just did this? Just made them look like complete jabronis? Got it. Look, got it. Like, dumb choice.
They have some plans to lure her out. There's a little little couple minutes of some Home Alone set on the Titan where, you know, people are running in, falling into traps, other assorted nonsense. But by the end, we see that like whatever Jack's concerns are, and they've kind of been hinting that this guy is a changeling. Whatever he's got going on appears to be much, much more. We've got some sort of possession. We've got astral projections. We've got marionetting. This dude's all fucked up.
The end result here, you know, Shaw gamely tries to stop the changelings from taking the bridge, but fails. And
Shaw gets beat up a lot.
He got an Archer-sized head wound. You see that shit? Like,
no, because Archer usually just gets a little like schmutz on his head. This guy, he's been thrown over the bridge. He busted all his fucking ribs up. He's getting his ass kicked here and there. Like, his rider and his contract was like, I will do this show, but only if I get beat up every other episode to a point where I might die.
To be honest, every actor on this show has done like a lot of press, a lot of podcasts in particular, because it's very accessible to Trek fans. Todd Stashwick, he's great. He's a lot of fun to listen to. He says like this is a dream come true. He's been a Star Trek fan his whole life, you know, like he's done nerd sci-fi stuff, you know, that's been his acting world. And the fact that he got to act against Patrick Stewart and be super aggro to him was apparently like they bonded over that because he was going for it. He's like, this is a dream come true. I'm gonna like get to be antagonistic to like one of my acting idols, right? And get to play against him in that way. And I really hope he gets to do more stuff. You know, like he's really understands the assignment and he really loves Star Trek.
Also, cool scene between him and Geordi, because we've established that Shaw is a engineered first and foremost. So him getting to cross paths with like the miracle worker of this generation, being a big fanboy moment for him was really cool.
He's like a bashful nerd, and it might be like the best justification for him, like being part of like the team briefing, like later on, like I'm on the team now. Like my buddy Geordi, I'm buddies with Geordi LaForge, boys. We did it. Also, Jonathan Frakes did the Shuttle Pod podcast, the one that Colin Schneer and the guy who plays Reed do. And he said what I said a couple weeks ago, which is Terry Matalas literally talked Patrick Stewart and all of this just by telling him, like, your choices didn't work, mine will work. Do it my way. Let's go.
That's some shop talk there.
It was. And it's to his internal credit, it apparently worked. So, and then last, that finally brings us to the last episode we're reviewing today, which is episode 8.
Episode 8, season 3, written by Matt Okamura, directed by Deborah Campanier. Surrender. This picks back up where we had left off, and that is Titan in a real bad place.
Vadic is in control. He's got the rest of her changeling friends there. Got the whole bridge crew captured. Doing the classic, starting to murder members of the crew while lighting a cigarette in the captain's chair. This phrase is used to describe a different character in the show, but Vadic is very arch. Like she is. If you're you got big hammy villain to play against Patrick Stewart, right? Like Shakespearean actor versus Shakespearean villain, and she's going the whole distance with it. It's just a little too much, but I
Yeah.
really loved the shot that starts this was like from the observation dome, comes down to her in the chair. She's lighting a cigarette. You know, she is slowly murdering a few members of the Titans crew in front of the bridge crew to just kind of prove credibility of her monstrosity.
Her
Very nice.
monologuing over the murders going on elsewhere in the ship, because she turns off the lights, she turns off internal communications, and it's whatever remains of the Titan crew just being hunted down and murdered. And this is what I touched on in our last Enterprise. Does this feel realistic? Yeah. Does this seem like something, a space terrorist would do? Absolutely. Does it feel Star Trek? Is this adding value? Is this something you want to see? I think hunting down and murdering junior Starfleet officers like dogs in the hallway, it's too much.
I think it's just right if you in this circumstance to really drive home both a threat and that this guy that there's no saving Vadic, right? Like you might have felt bad for Vadic last episode, tortured and all that stuff. Dispose of those feelings now. Vadic is still the villain. Vadic is irredeemable. Vadic's got to go.
And
And
while they're showing this like horrific stuff going on, this horror movie in the hallways, she's like conducting an orchestra, and it's just, this is where I really start being done with this character. It, like you said, it's too much. It's annoying. Also, the crew is portrayed to like cowering, and these guys are just walking around corners and nobody. It's too much. It's starts getting pretty silly, and the whole time it's going on, I'm just like, all right, just fucking plug Data in already. Let them turn the power on and start fucking dudes up with the force fields. Let me see some people get transported out into space. God damn it! Doesn't happen by transporter, but sure enough.
you get your wish. You do. The
Also, Vadic's pronunciation of Picard over it just nails on a fucking chalkboard.
Oh, something I do like about the bridge crew of the Titan is that you can tell just from like we get a lot of like close shots of them in this episode. The way that their mannerisms are seems to be befitting their characters particularly well. Like the tactical officer, the Bajoran tactical officer, he's very like at attention, staring straight ahead. You've got like the junior science officer who's kind of cowering and emotional. You've got I'm sorry, I guess that's the engineering station on the bridge is helmed by the kind of like female ensign alien, and then you've got Tavine, who's the science officer, who's being a Vulcan, just kind of like serenely kind of looking around. This is something that our Red Letter Media pointed out, and I really liked that these actors kind of really figured their roles out despite not having a ton of screen time. Certainly the focus is never on them, but they're present enough and the show does enough that you kind of care about what's happening to them and their characters feel kind of fleshed out such that you can care about them.
I can only assume this is a direct result of Discovery and the absolute disservice they did in taking forever to even fucking say the name of the people in the bridge outside of Lorca, Burnham, and Tilly.
Yeah, like we gotta never do that again.
Yeah.
We accidentally did a season of Star Trek when we didn't explain who the main characters were. What an oops. Like we're never gonna live that down.
Sure, but no, actors all do a great job here, and for it being too much hunting down the crewmen in the hallways like dogs, the execution scenario on the bridge was appropriate, because again, this is being broadcast to the ship, and the goal here is, Jack, this blood's going to be on your hands. You need to come up here and present yourself. And Picard's response to this to Jack is like, do not do that. We don't negotiate with terrorists. And also, once you go to her, she is going to kill everybody on this ship. This is a no-win, and we are fucked. There's got to be another way.
Before we see kind of the stages of how they try and deal with Vadic, we do actually cut back to the Shrike, where we get another long-awaited scene, and that is Troy and Riker hanging out post getting their asses kicked / tortured. And this is a great pair of scenes, ultimately, between the two of them, because we've never really gotten to see the Riker and Troy married life. We had the one episode of Picard season 1 where they showed up, but they weren't really the focuses of that. And here, it's really about them, about what's... They certainly talk a lot about that they've lost their son, which was a plot point in season 1. But importantly, it's about their relationship. It's about their marriage. And, I know these two actors know each other very well professionally. I imagine they have had the conversation of, like, where would our characters be? And they've done all these, the stuff together and all these conventions for years and years, right? I'm sure it's come up. Like, if we had the opportunity to revisit, what would it be like? How would this banter work? They've had all the opportunity to continue to have chemistry with each other in a way that, going into this conversation, I believe that these two have been married for 30 years. Like, they feel like it. It feels like Troy and Riker after 3 decades of marriage. Very well done.
It's good, but the show stealer here is understanding that not only are they dealing with the grief of a child they've lost, but Troy coming in as a counselor and trying to treat her husband, and in the process of doing that, kind of abusing her telepathic powers.
Yeah, drove him away.
Like using like a quietus on him, basically creating this unnatural calmness in him, numbing him, and the result of which being an alienating force between them that Riker ultimately wanted to escape. So then it's not only have I lost my child, but I have driven my husband away. I have failed as a family member. I've failed professionally, and that makes everything so much more worse. There's some fun.
They reconcile, though. Like, it's an important part of it is he's given her the old Riker charm, right? Like, the changeling that came to look like you to get me, who's very convincing, good in bed, bad at pizza. Like, there's great stuff there. And when they ultimately bind back together, right? She's Imzadi in the end, like, just like she was at the very beginning. And like, they really only have this one set of scenes to really do that in the whole series, and they make the most use of that time.
It's great. And what else is great is the guy coming to finally kill him off, but before he can do anything, look at that.
Worf.
Someone going in for that melee kill.
I do love that Worf is like, yeah, Deanna, I've thought of you very much since last we saw each other, because they dated in season 7. He's sweet on her. I've thought many times of how you looked in those leather pants when we did the Western holodeck episode with my son. Every day I've considered how how flattering those were.
You are permanent. You're a Hall of Fame spank bank.
Riker's like, right here in front of me, huh? Like, so what's you, dude? I like the Riker Worf banter during the season of, like, Rikers were trying to joke with him and needle him a little bit, and he's kind of like stiff now because he's spent all this time working on his, like, monastic sort of focus.
Yes, he's been busy on Dagobah confronting his demons in the cave of the dark side.
It's like Riker's like, fun. What is this? Turn into a square.
Yeah. When does Raffi have her stupid fucking scene?
Or like when she does the knife fighting? It's in the end of this episode.
Ugh.
Yeah, we'll skip over that. Whatever. Raffi's there too. They break him out of jail. They also find that Picard's corpse is there, and that the piece of his brain that had the brain problem has been taken out, and that's their plot. Back on Titan, the thrust is this. First, Jack tries to hijack the brain of the tactical officer to reclaim the ship using Picard's super duper override code as an admiral, and gets caught.
Yeah, the lag was too bad on that connection.
And because he got caught, that's when Vadix decides to execute someone. There's a lot of tension because you don't actually know which one's going to get you. You know one of these poor bastards are getting aced, right? And it's going to be one of the ones with lines. You got to make them feel it.
Not going to be 7 of 9.
Not going to be 7 of 9. Not going to be Shaw. It's going to definitely be the tactical officer, the engineering officer, or the science officer, because they're the ones that have spoken. And sure enough, it's I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot her. I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot her. Oh, I'm going to shoot the one I haven't threatened yet, which is Tavine. And you feel bad. You're like, oh, I liked her. You know, like, shit.
That's what you get for not having that Vulcan helmet haircut.
Go to deflect it right off.
Yeah.
And after that, they're like, what do we do now? Okay, now we got to make the desperation play. And the desperation play is we're going to go back down to engineering and we're going to talk to Geordi and we're going to see if we can just like get Data to like unfuck himself and then take the ship over. The 2-factor authentication when they come down to engineering is that Picard insults Geordi's taste in wine. Like, okay, yeah, that's you. Nice. And they resolved to just say, okay, well, we're going to lower all the shields inside Data's brain, and hopefully Data wins. That's all. The only play we got left. Also, I'm going to send Jack up there with what looks like a thermal detonator to like buy us some time with threats.
Jack gets up there, pops it out. The entire crew escapes except for behind the blast doors of the conference room, except for 7 of 9. There's some line in there like, there's nothing 7 can do to help the situation. Again, I'm like, dude, this is 7 of 9. This is like this is the not Mary Sue, but this is the most capable human being
in the world.
This is the person that should have been involved in everything.
The exact line Vadic uses, which is interesting, is of all the people on the ship, it is the most appropriate that you witness this. And that goes unremarked otherwise.
I keep wondering at this point if the Borg are going to end up being involved, if Jack is some sort of changeling Borg hybrid. Because the tentacles they keep laying over the screen when they are talking about the red door, they don't seem organic. There's something techno about them. And they, other than Wolf 359, any sort of discussion about the Borg whatsoever has been completely absent in this. And this should be, a big fucking deal, especially in the wake of Picard season 1. But anyways, down in engineering or whatever it is, do we see main engineering at any point?
No,
like, do we see the warp core?
They don't have a set for that, so they couldn't build one.
No, you got the techno closet where sometimes it's where the poison gas is being leaked. This time it's where Data's hooked up. And they say, we gotta risk this. We gotta take the partitions down. We gotta let Lore and Data fight over who gets to be king of the hill. And we gotta hope to God that Data is going to be the stronger one. It's a little paint by numbers. Data.
It's a little schmaltzy. Yeah.
Data confronts, like, they're in cyberspace, but it looks like they're standing in like the Windows 95 default desktop background. Lore's talking shit, and Data's like, oh, I give up. Here's all my most important memories. I'm going to hand them to you. You're going to be touching it, getting your fingerprints all over it. I'm going to be putting fucking virus on you or whatever it is. And
here, literally, let me give you Spot, right? We're doing it all.
Fucking thing that nobody wants. This goddamn cat. Here's, of course, our obligatory shout out to Tasha Yar.
And the rope-a-dope here is that Data purposefully enticed Lore into taking all of his memories, because what is identity but memory? And by taking all of his memories, he has in fact subverted his own identity to Data, thus making Data the primary personality within the construct. That is the explanation. It is a little thin, but I will I will buy it at retail knowing I'm supporting a business I like. You know, like it's
Again, I would like to there have been more emphasis of Data saying, I understand now we cannot exist as separate. I cannot destroy you. We must integrate. We are two parts to the same product, and
right.
I cannot be whole without you. And if I let you win, you will be incomplete and defective. Like, we need to do this. Whatever. What you get is fine. Data comes out on top and goes, all right, bitches, it's me time. Again, some of this cheeky, zingy, this is your captain speaking. You changeling fucks, you're in trouble now.
I'm angry, and we are going to be killing you.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, we find out the thermal detonator is not a thermal detonator, but a mobile temporary force
Shield
field,
emitter, yeah.
which was neat because it is the way that Jack and Seven of Nine will prevent themselves from getting sucked into space, because Data opens with the evacuation doors of the bridge, something we've never seen before. And that is apparently a big old set of doors behind the view screen that goes ahead and ushers the couple changelings left on the bridge along with Vatic into the cold
Shortly
of
after
space.
Nemesis, over at Starfleet Engineering, the top ship designers are sitting around and like, listen, guys, the last generation of console IED explosives, they're good, but honestly, the console's just blowing up and scorching people's faces. It's stale. We're
Yeah,
stagnating as a department. We need a new, exciting way to
next level.
kill
Next level. Yeah.
bridge crew members
Yeah.
and
Vacuum
go.
of space. We need to do them like the original Harry Kim was done. Suck them right out. Suck them right out.
Jones, give me your best option. Big old barn doors, right in the screens. The screen's a door and it opens and it just sucks everybody out.
You know what, Lieutenant Jones? That's Commander Jones thinking right there. That's Commander Jones thinking.
I want every computer surface in this ship to be an exterior port hatch, and at any moment might suck the person in front of it out into the cold, dark throes of space.
Pretty dumb that it exists, but it is a pretty nice way to just finally shove Vatic out of the show.
Vatic being, I don't know, an old lady, it's interesting for being the bad guy that she does zero physical violence done to her, minus the slapdash gun play.
The failures to shoot her.
Picard never gets to punch her. Nobody shoves her. She just gets sucked out into space in a special effect T-1000
I guess
crystallization.
you could count when she's communicating with whoever her boss is, who's like some figure that kind of looks ambiguous, definitely unpleased, and seems to be torturing her, but it's all done by effect, right? Like there's no actual stunt.
Right. There's no punching, and I can't think of any other Star Trek villain that has completely avoided any sort of fisticuffs with the main cast.
Me neither. Me neither. But again, Vatic works. It's just too much. It's just that bowl of ice cream was just too much content, right?
Too
I only
much
needed
chocolate
half.
syrup on it.
I just needed half of that, and we would have been good. But unfortunately, I got too much. But she
At
has
some
it.
point, Raffi comes down the hallway. The goons, who in every single scene we have seen are carrying rifles and shooting people. Somehow she encounters 6 of them, not a pistol to be seen, no rifles anywhere, and she's got her fucking, 2 ninja swords and beats the hell out of all these guys and kills everybody. And
Except for one. Like, Worf does tag one. He's got the only one with the Type 2 phaser, too.
so the phasers, man, like, why move away from the particle beam weapons to this? The only thing I can think is it's the sound, right? That gunshot effect. When you pull the trigger, there's an explosion and violence happens, usually a disintegration of some sort.
As much as I love the Type 2, it does make for boring fights, and having like the particle weapon style fight allows you to do things that are more kinetic and more interesting effects wise and more interesting sound wise. So the fact that it is in the end only Worf who's using the Type 2 and it's basically as an execution device. Okay. I kind of get why they made that
I
choice.
kind of like it too. Like he almost. What if the Type 2 he uses was like the first season Dustbuster? Because, like you're saying, he uses that as like an execution, like cleanup device to like kill people that are down. When the fact he's just dust busting.
I mean, he does say that he has killed thousands of enemies since they last all sat together and considered sending their heads to each and every one of them, but was informed that would be passive aggressive. So, he's had a lot of bodies to clean up, That Dustbuster's been working.
Things conclude this episode with everybody sitting around the table finally. The gang's all here. Everybody is in uniform, minus Picard. They all have their old fat man uniforms on, which is the one that I would be wearing because I would not be able to fit into the sleek Seki uniforms either.
Same.
You got Shaw there.
Shaw's not in the last scene.
He's not?
No, they're not. So it's only the TNG crew in that last briefing scene at the very end. You can check it. It is just Picard, Riker, Worf.
No 7 either?
No 7. It's just them.
Big kids table only.
So the big kids are having a conversation, and
it reassures everybody that, like, hey, it was so hard of me to, like, for me to leave all of you to go run off with my love child. But I missed you all. And then Troy's like, I'm crazy. I've been talking to my imaginary friend that is you.
We end this with the only revelation that they really have left, which is clearly this is all about Jack. So if we've got nothing left to follow up on, we've obliterated the Shrike with like 18 photon torpedoes. We've killed all the changelings, but we still are no closer to fuck is supposed to happen here. So I guess that means we got to plumb Jack's depths, unfortunately. And I think this is a really great use of exploring what Troy's powers really are like now that you've kind of got a better narrative sense. You've got an empath here who can maybe take him down and in a journey in a way to find out what's going on. So, and we end with the two of them sitting down and Deanna talking through, getting him to consider like what are the tendrils, what is the door? Let's go through the door. We have to see.
As soon as she came on the ship, as a matter of fact, she's like, something's real fucked up on here. The dark side this is actually Dagobah. What the fuck?
Yeah, your son is a cave. It's the dark side cave. And we've been teased 2 episodes in a row that we're gonna finally get the answer to what the fuck is going on with Jack, but it doesn't happen until episode 9. So that's where we're going.
Compare and contrast Deanna Troi as a plot device and as a character from early seasons of TNG to now. And for as stupid, I mean, she was a pair of big boobs in a low-cut dress. Captain, I suspect this shifty ass enemy captain might be plotting something nefarious. Okay, thank you, Captain Obvious.
You don't say. Okay, got it.
To now, she is the primary vehicle to move this plot forward and directly address these deep-seated issues. Like, really, really good use of her
Agreed.
as a magic being that has this telepathic ability. But even better is like the way that she approaches psychology in this, right?
Yeah, they really flesh out her as a professional in this, in a way that they never were really able to do in TNG, and it's very nice to see.
Because I'd say really the closest they ever got to that was like her work with Barclay.
Agreed.
And this blows that out of the water. So cool stuff there, and it's easy to forget that like Troi is kind of a badass, as best exemplified when she was like undercover doing the fucking Tal Shiar shit.
Oh yeah, well, like unwilling too, right? Like she got roped into that and was like voluntold. By the way, you're gonna have to make this work, or you're gonna be in a Romulan prison forever.
Also, lots of innocent people, right? Like you're doing big important stuff here. And again, through all of this, those last few interactions she gets to have with Jack one-on-one, again, further cements the fact that I like this kid. The acting's good. They're asking a lot of this actor to portray all the zany magic powers, like to the point where in the hallway when Lore has like these partitions up, they're about to get attacked by changeling thugs, and like he takes over her mind and is able to like puppet her through John Wick fight sequences. But he's able to continue portraying this character in a compelling and reasonable way, and I think that's a really big ask.
I completely agree, man. I think that I'm excited to see what the future holds if they can make it happen with these actors they've picked out. You know, like uh, uh, we're about to get into the exciting finale, and it is fantastic, and we're going to get a lot more candy than nutritious meals, as I mentioned earlier, when we do the finale, and it's fun and it feels much more earned because you've had so much depth. But in terms of looking to the future, what happens after Picard season 3, which is something that I think the writer's strike might actually help make happen. You know, if some of this stuff lays up for too long and you keep seeing Picard do super well in the ratings, which it is now the only Paramount Plus show to ever make the top 10 of streaming twice, because episode 9 rated into the top 10. Almost certainly episode 10 will do the same, so it'll probably be a 3-time hit for them. I think they're gonna move more resolutely towards doing a Star Trek Legacy show. And if you're gonna have Ed Spaliers and you're gonna have, you know, some potential of some people who might be interested in coming in from the older shows as well to augment that, you could have something special on your hands. And I'm hoping it comes together. And I'm looking forward to reviewing the finale with you here.
Yeah,
You seem fully bought in.
sure. Again, I wouldn't really focus on why 7 and 8 felt worse than the rest of the season 3. Like, I think it really just comes down to the overacting of the villains.
I think
Uh,
the limited resources mattered a lot, because the limited resources mattered both in the production sloppiness. Like there's straight up audio errors in two
I don't even
scenes.
care about that stuff, man. It was just a drag to watch. And I think what it was before is that you had multiple lines running with uh, characters in different scenarios on different planets, each of them doing new things, but having an opportunity to like fold throwback and nostalgia in. And once you had her take over the Titan and turn it into a slaughterhouse, like everybody's on the same plot line and there's no room to really chew up the scenes. It's very grim and dark, and everybody is reacting instead of being proactive and exploring and doing cool stuff and fun.
Thanks for listening to another Picard roundup. We look forward to having you join us for the grand finale as we cover episodes 9 and 10. We'll see you then.